morning. Good morning. I'm hoping that, I'm seeing a few people here this morning who would add to the questions that were posed in this morning's sermon title, Unitarian Universalism, what's that? Michael Servetus Unitarian Society, never heard of it. I would hope that some of you may be asking the question, and who are you? Well, for those of you who are new, and those of you who need to be reminded, I am Karen Gustafson, a Unitarian Universalist minister in fellowship with the Unitarian Universalist Association, beginning my second and final year as interim minister of Michael Servetus Unitarian Society. For the past year, a search committee selected by the members of this congregation has been busy working on a congregational profile that will accurately and persuasively attract a new minister to settle here and serve this congregation for many years to come. My job here is to serve the ongoing pastoral, administrative, and prophetic needs of this congregation while holding you accountable to the vision that you claim. This is that vision. As Unitarian Universalists, we challenge ourselves to be open, loving, and inclusive, inspired by many sources of wisdom, committed agents of compassion, service, justice, and joy, seekers at all ages, engaged in questioning and learning. You're going to hear this a lot. And so on this Sunday morning, in late August, we take up this challenge in a review of what it is that grounds us. Because we cannot be seekers alone, and we need to be able to extend our vision out beyond these walls. And I will say more about that as we go on. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again come. Come, come. These are the words translated from the greatest mystical poet of Islam, Jalal al-Din Rumi, who lived from 1207 to 1273. Put to music by Unitarian Universalist composer Lynn Unger, who also composed our opening words this morning. These words carry the message that stands at the heart of Unitarian Universalism at its best. Come, come, whoever you are, is an unconditional invitation to people who are seeking a place, a community where human being can be held in all of its complexity, where the mysteries of how we come to be in this world and the inevitability of death can be explored, and the lived experience that fills us with wonder and threatens us with despair can be held with the same reverence and informing power as the wisdom of ancient prophets. Even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come, yet again come. This line, not included in our song, speaks of the covenantal nature of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, which was referred to in Bill Schultz's words this morning. This is grounded not in a static profession of belief handed to us from sources outside of us, but rather grounded in covenant, in vows, promises that are not immutable, but rise out of our best intentions. It speaks of human resilience and forgiveness, and the possibility that we can call one another to our best selves. Though we must do so again and again and again. The essence of Unitarian Universalism lives in this room and in all of the places that we gather. It lives in our reasons for being here and the reasons we stay and come back again and again. So I'm going to invite you just to take a minute here to think about how come you here? Whether you are here for the first time today or have come back for 2 or 20 or 1,000 times, you are here today. Think, I am here at this church because when I am here, I feel I do, I can, I want, and yes, even I believe. Just take a moment and be with your own thoughts about this. Now look around you and know that you are among others with passionate desire to belong, to connect, to care and act, to celebrate and grieve, to explore and question and engage in changing minds and hearts and maybe even the world. You are among people of other generations and life experiences and beliefs who are at best enriched by your differences. In a 1982 sermon entitled Explaining Unitarian Universalism to Others, the late Reverend Roy Phillips of Unity Church Unitarian in St. Paul notes the following. I believe, he says, the best way to explain Unitarianism, talk about what it is and does for you. Traditionally, this way of presenting one's religion is called making your own personal witness, and I think it is a better approach than trying in casual conversation to sum up 450 years of church history or to give a comprehensive review of liberal religious philosophical positions. Explaining Unitarianism by saying, I go to church because of what happens to me, because of what I find, because of how it affects me. And then help to spell that out for the other. Make your own personal witness. Don't begin with the abstract belief. You, yourself, will be interested, perhaps delighted, by what you hear yourself beginning to say. He goes on, we are a religious experiment trying to see if and willing to wager that people will get closer to the truth, deeply rooted, spiritually nourishing truth, if they are allowed to admit their confusion under uncertainty. Religion, we tend to believe, has more to do with being together supportively, even as we may differ with one another. Religion has more to do with the quality of spirit and community, with being together supportively, than it has to do with making sure that everybody is right. Everybody is thinking the same. Religion, as we see it then, has more to do with inclusiveness and nurturance than it has to do with being right. Come, come, whoever you are. It is also helpful, I suppose, to remember that we are guided by principle. It does not hurt to remind ourselves, as we did with our children this morning, regularly, that we have a frame of common reference, a set of baldly stated principles that came out of the minds and hearts of living Unitarian Universalists. It is a list of statements that we are invited by one another to affirm and promote in our congregations. They are printed in our hymnals. They are printed on t-shirts. They are printed on a piece of paper in your order of service that you can take home and fasten to your refrigerator with a magnet. Sometime today, I would encourage everyone to read them with your friends or family as though you are reading them for the very first time. And I hope that's not true. They are one clear statement of the vows that we have broken 1,000 times. To affirm and promote not just when it's easy or convenient, not instead of or over against the edicts of another faith tradition, but all the darn time. When we were talking with the children this morning, we were talking to all of us. It's waking up in the morning and saying, how am I going to live my life today as though these are the principles that guide my life? These principles, stated in reasonably plain English, have been and undoubtedly will be again wordsmithed and debated. Ours is a religion in which you are free to interpret the words in the way that you will. And in the end, there will still be the story of your life, lived in relationship to a larger story that is your way of being will have helped to create. Your way of being and our way of being Unitarian Universalist community is shaped by our fumbling, imperfect, and sometimes triumphant efforts to live lives of principle and service. Along with the man on the bus with Rebecca Parker, paradise is here and now when we help the children, or engage our principles against the seemingly unbeatable odds that are being presented to us by our dominant culture. And in case that is not daunting enough, we need to do it with humanity and compassion towards those with whom we don't agree, because we know that both fighting and ignoring have failed again and again and again to change the world. The good news is that as Unitarian Universalists, there is no limit to the resources that we can tap into to provide examples and guidance toward goodness and service. What makes Unitarian Universalists unique in the religions of the world is that we are unabashed about drawing from the whole canon of working wisdom. This statement, too, appears in your order of service. Take it home, read it aloud to your family and friends as though you're reading it the first time. And I know that for some people, that is true. Ours is no caravan of despair. Here is the fullness of the word. In early August, I attended a 3-day conference at the Hennepin United Methodist Church, which featured 2 liberal Christian thinkers, John Philip Newell and Barbara Brown Taylor. The conference title was Seeking the Sacred Thread. I would describe the intention of the conference as an effort to broaden and deepen the tapestry of Christianity with the weaving together of threads from Christianity and other wisdom traditions, specifically Judaism, Buddhism, and Islam. Much of the content that was offered by the speakers would have been easily part of any consideration of Unitarian Universalism. John Philip Newell called us to be pilgrims seeking light rather than selling dogmas. He spoke of us, those present, as all being manifestations of the sacred. Sarah Thompson, singer-songwriter from Duluth, sang with us, by breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. Beauty above us, beauty below us, beauty around us, beauty within us. Artist Beth Grossman engaged participants in an ongoing dialogue using the many different iterations of the Golden Rule as expressed in all of the world's religions, including ours. Unitarian Universalist writer Karen Herring led us in writing exercises that help us to integrate the threads of each presentation with our own tapestries of faith. I had at times the strange sense that I was a guest who had stumbled into the Christian household, an unwitting witness to a moment of ongoing reformation in the Christian faith. Newell went so far as to say that humanity needed to stretch to give birth to a new God. Taylor spoke of holy envy regarding some of the best practices of other religions that seemed to be missing from the Christian faith. I confess to all of you today that I struggled with my own sense of arrogance and frustration. Have I not spent my life's work committed to a movement that has sought for centuries in one way or another now to express the expansive possibilities embodied in the spirit of this conference? How is it that Unitarian Universalism, in our historic inclusion and respect for the universal wisdom of many faiths, a tradition that to all appearances seems to be already at our best what these Christians were striving to become, how is it that we are not dominating the religious landscape, at least in America? Well, the answers to this question are a whole other sermon. There are many varied and possible answers to this question, all of them containing a grain of truth. It has been suggested to me by some who have come to us from the Christian tradition that though the garment of Christianity was too tight for them, the garment of Unitarian Universalism is too loose, lacking the structure and the focus and commitment that would attract and hold a serious seeker. In our effort sometime to remain open, we seem to imply that anything goes. There is a popular misconception that Unitarian Universalists can believe whatever we want. We cannot survive as a faith tradition if we allow ourselves, or anybody else for that matter, to dismiss us with such a frivolous claim. The problem I identified at the Sacred Threads Conference is that we have painted ourselves into a place of over-againstness in our tendency to focus on the gods we don't believe in and the causes we cannot support. We are so much more than a punchline in a Garrison Keillor joke. We are all and more of the reasons that you are here today. It is important that we take those reasons seriously, to claim this place and this faith tradition as the foundation for our lives. As we talk together and with others about what we find at Michael Servetus Unitarian Society, we become visible. We see expansive possibilities for meeting our needs and for carrying our best selves into the world. Rebecca Parker follows her story about the man on the bus with the following reflection. We come to know this world as paradise when our hearts and souls are reborn throughout the arduous and tender task of living rightly with one another and the earth. Generosity and mutual care are the pathways into knowing that paradise is here and now. This way of being is not utopian. It does not spring from the imagination for a better world, but from a profound embrace of this world. It brings hope home to today, to this moment and its possibilities for faithful love. Our hope need not be that a new Jerusalem will descend from on high into the smoking ruins of an earth destroyed by self-fulfilling prophecies of violence. Even less need our hopes be that a righteous few will be raptured into another world. Nor do we need to look only to the future, laboring to serve an idealized vision of what could be. Our hope can be that from within the heart of the world, paradise will arise. It will arise from the seeds of Eden sown everywhere, from the life that is in us and around us, in our communities and cultures, from the gifts of our resistance, compassion, and creativity, and from the very stones crying out their praise for a God who is here, already wiping the tears from our eyes. So may it be. Welcome to a new year.